Hi, I'm Robert Schultze, and this is Light Meter. Today, my guest is a fashion, portrait, and headshot photographer, an entrepreneur, and someone that I consider a good friend. We went to school in San Francisco together and went through the ups and downs of starting out in this industry. Currently, she is focusing her work on business portraits and her new virtual assistant for creative professionals, Triva. Come listen into my conversation with Iann Ivy. Would you describe yourself as a Bay Area photographer?
Yeah, I would say I am located in the San Francisco Bay and serving worldwide.
So we went to school together at the Academy of Art in San Francisco. You know, as kind of a general question, I always like to ask, artists and photographers, like, how useful do you think art school was for you or for a photographer in general?
So I think as far as learning like the basics and systems, I don't think it's something necessary because there's a lot of great online programs and resources, especially nowadays. But I think that the benefit of going to university was really the networking experience and like the in-person critique sessions from peers and instructors. My favorite instructor was John Vano. He intimidated me at first because he never like sugarcoated anything, but he got me to think more like critically about what I was photographing and like what kind of story I was trying to tell with my images. I don't know. I think it was a really great experience, like living in the dorms too, because I really got to meet people from so many different industries. So like in fashion and design and cinematographer. So I've made pretty much like the best friends of my life from school and that experience. And I don't think you could ever really get that with like online learning. So I think there's pros and cons.
Yeah, definitely. I think the networking aspect is probably the most important part of really any college education experience, but like especially with art school, because, like the peers that you have then are probably the peers you're going to work with for most of your life.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you were in school, you started out primarily interested in doing fashion photography.
Yeah.
And since then you've moved on to like branded portrait stuff for like businesses or executives. How do you think these two types of photography mesh?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of crossover when it comes to like styling and posing. And again, it goes with the type of client you're attracting. I think a lot of my work in the past was usually based around like a garment or a theme. But now, it's usually based around either a love story if I'm shooting like a wedding or something, or like the personalities or industries of an individual. So like if it's a headshot session, like how am I portraying them to showcase their personal brand? And so I kind of see myself now as like a visual marketing artist in some regards. But like instead of selling a garment, I'm selling like an image of somebody, if that makes sense.
So when you're approaching like headshots and stuff, you're more inclined to sit down and talk with someone about their life or their work or what this type of image is used for and kind of help create an image based on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have all these ideas of like how they want to be portrayed and, what parts of their personality they're really trying to convey. Like if they say they're a really funny person and they want to convey that, but they have like a resting face, it's like you got to find a way to like bring that out of them. So yeah, it's always fun just getting to know each person and like what's going on in their life.
Would you say that like this sort of fashion business portraiture is that kind of your primary photography business?
Yeah, I think my primary business, I've mostly been contacted for like headshots, like personal branding, family and engagement shoots. I think especially with these type of sessions, they've been really integral to still generating business throughout COVID. I think, yeah, especially right now, we've seen so much job loss for so many people, but, my photography business has still been, getting clients because, people still want to either like boost their profiles right now to, attract companies, or people are still getting engaged. Like I myself have gotten married through Corona, so I still needed a photographer too. So like I think our business can still thrive and you can still do work. It's just keeping an ear to the ground and out there and just saying that you are still conducting business, but in a safe a safe way where you can do that.
And when you refer to like safe ways of doing business, are you talking about like, aside from doing like headshots and stuff, are you talking about still life or shoes or clothing type stuff or different? Because there's a ton of, companies like that in the Bay Area that do like mass photography of clothing and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think especially now with everyone kind of growing their personal brand, especially with people working remotely nowadays, is people want to kind of see what you're like and, what you're doing. And so alongside just like the headshots, I'm getting requests for people to like show like the behind the scenes of them like actually working, in their shop or, working on some files or on their laptop, and just like all these different kind of shoots that kind of shows more into their life and their brand than just the headshot.
There's a lot of competition in this area, in the Bay Area. Have you had much contact with your competition or any trouble with your competition or are you making something completely unique in your approach to capturing the image in terms of customer service, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I feel like so in so many industries, there's such huge competition, especially with photography. But I think what kind of sets my work apart is that, I pretty much at this point, I'm exclusively a natural light photographer. I think that a lot of my headshots come off as, very like inviting and not too contrived, just like stiff. Like I really try to market myself as, this, modern day professional photographer. So that way people, small business entrepreneurs or people that are doing side hustles or people that are just like in these really new industries can reach out to me and have those shots that are just more connective with people instead of like the standard kind of, all white, all gray background in a suit kind of shot.
Yeah, it's definitely important to set yourself apart, both in your customer service as well as your visual style, obviously. Judging by, from the time that we went to school together and the stuff that I've seen you doing today, like you're definitely doing that. You're standing out.
Yeah, I really have liked like the style I've grown into. And as far as like competition, I don't think it's as cutthroat as I think in the past it might have felt like. When you're in college, you're like, oh man, I got to be like the best of the best so I can get like the most clients. But what I've really seen, at least with like the other photographers that my style kind of closely aligns with, there's a very supportive community. I've scheduled like lunches and just like catch ups with other photographers who still shoot, natural light portraits just like me, but their style, there's small differences. And, if I can't shoot something for a client, I want to have those referrals too. So that way they know that I can refer them to someone who has similar style, but that I also can trust their eye too. So I think it's always important to, not just make enemies of your competition.
When you were first getting into photography in general or professional photography in general, how difficult was it for you to get your footing and find your first photography job?
Yeah, I don't think it was that difficult just because I remember getting paid gigs while I was still in college. I think it was really just networking, and then those clients would tell their friends about me, and that's pretty much how I got the ball rolling. I honestly don't remember like my first paid gig. I wish I did, but I really don't. But I know that I definitely started off undervaluing my skill. And so I remember coming to you for advice on how to price better than I was, because I think a lot of artists go into it and just don't have that sense of value for their work yet. And especially with photography, a lot of people are like, oh, like, yeah, you do photography, right? I'll give you like $50. Can you do this for me? And so you definitely have to value yourself because I remember you telling me it's like if you price yourself super low, then that just brings like pretty much the whole industry down as well.
It's like, oh, this girl in San Francisco is ruining the whole industry. It's not quite that bad. But it's important to create value for yourself in any industry you're in, especially in photography where it's like so accessible.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as just having a camera, but anyone that has a camera can certainly learn the skills over time, the skill part, but there's, of course, creative eye and developing your taste and stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those things I liken to, drawing. Like anyone can pick up a piece of paper and pen, but, you're not going to ask some, really great artist, like, oh, can you draw this, portrait of my cat and I'll give you $1. It's just insulting. So it's like, it really takes like the time and skill and creative eye, all of those things to like really, create your business as an artist. And so you really should be charging accordingly.
You just insulted every person on Fiverr. What do you think when you were in school and still kind of figuring this out? Like, what do you think was your worst paid gig that you did?
My worst paid gig? I think I liked all of the gigs I've done, but I remember one of the standouts was I had a very difficult client because she wanted headshots and photos for her dating profile. And I just remember like being in like the studio and shooting her, and just, I feel like people, when it comes to their self-image, they're very particular about it. And I just remember it was like after every shot she wanted to see like, what do I look like? What do I look like? And it was just like one of those things where just, especially when it's just in camera raw like that, it's just like she's not going to really see like, that's not the fully developed image. And so I think that taught me to just really take the lead rather than give the client all the power, because with your skill that you're gonna serve them well. You're not gonna be showing like their worst attributes. You're there because they trusted your vision in the first place. So I think just taking that power back and not just giving it all to the client is really important. You
are involved with other businesses, whether that's customer service at like a tech firm or like branding. These are sort of quote unquote next to photography. Can you tell me about those and how you roll that into your photography work?
One of the things that pivoted my career just a little bit was once I finished my master's degree in England. It was a great experience, but when I came back to the United States, I was super broke. I didn't have like one penny to my name, basically. So I worked part-time and back in my hometown. And I just knew I wanted to come back up to the Bay just because, I love the culture at the time, and all my, I have so many great friends up here too. And so I really wanted to come back up. And so I pretty much, hustled hard to find another job. And this was the time when like startups were really getting like really big. It was 2015, I believe. And so I was like, okay, like I need to get a job at a startup. And so I found a job at a photography and tech gear rental job. And, it was paying like $40,000 a year. And I thought it was so much money because it was like the first salary I've ever gotten, which, yeah, in the Bay Area, it's not that much. But I thought it was like so great. And I'm like, okay, like this is my chance. And so I drove up for the interview. It was like 5 hours away and I got the job. But I didn't even have a place to live and I didn't have any money saved up. So, I did something really crazy and I actually posted an ad on Craigslist, and I was like, which I wouldn't recommend now, but I posted an ad on Craigslist and I was like, hey, like, I'm, getting my feet on the ground back in the city. I got this job, but I'm really looking for a place to stay if anyone can, help me out. And, I got lucky because there was someone who was a building manager at these really nice apartments in San Francisco and like downtown. And they said, my roommate just moved out. I have a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. You can have your own bathroom, have your own room for a month. And I won't charge you any rents. I'm just really trying to pay it forward because someone helped me, back in the day too. And so, for that, I will always be grateful for, because I, was able to really get my feet on the ground and was able to take the job. So I'm happy that happened. And that kind of just rolled myself into like the tech worlds. At first it was integrating like photography with it too. But then from there I went to Yelp, and then from Yelp I got headhunted to Facebook. And most recently was at Wish. And so, yeah, I just, got involved in the tech world, learning, about customer operations, administration, project management, event planning. So learned all these great skills in tech, and there's so many, other great perks that come along with being in tech. But yeah, in April, I was laid off due to COVID from my tech job. And so I've been working on my photography, and, recently I just started my own creative virtual assistant business to help creative small business owners manage like their day-to-day tasks and their content creation and their branding, just so that way I can put all those skills to use, especially right now because the job market's so competitive, and I was on the job market. I just found like, hey, I've been this entrepreneur. I have these skills. I'm, just going to be a dual business owner now.
Well, speaking of that, you're talking about having friends in the Bay Area, getting you jobs. Like how important, especially now, how important do you think networking is if you're just going to be a photographer? And I think I know the answer to this question. I'm just curious because you kind of told me about how your journey to get to where you are now was. Networking is playing like a huge role in that, right?
Definitely. Networking is so key to the photography business. Pretty much any other job you're really going to get. It's that, foot in the door. It's that name drop. It really helps on so many levels. But I think the main thing about it is not just like networking to be a salesperson, but really investing in other people and learning about their experiences and their pain points and what they are looking for, and not making it about you. Because, a lot of people are always all about, me, this is what I have to offer. This is what I can do for you. But it's like they're not listening to the needs of others. And so I think that's a really big thing that you need to do when you network, is not just thinking about your services, but like how are you serving their needs, and thinking about the other person and listening to them, because everyone has their own story and journey. And a lot of people, especially in like the age of, digital and tech and everything, it's like people don't always have that chance to be heard. And it's really important to be a listener for people, especially if you're the photographer, you're the eyes, but you should also be the ears.
Who are some of your past and current favorite photographers or artists or designers that you know of or have worked with?
This is like a big one, but I finally got to meet her when I was working at Facebook. But I was able to meet Annie Leibovitz, and she was fantastic. Oh my gosh. I remember I was such a nerd because like there's all these like tech people going up to meet her at this book signing, and they have like a kind of broad perception of like who she is and what she does, but they didn't really study her or see her like as much as like we did in art school. And so it was just funny because I'm like, oh yeah, I went to art school and all these things, and yeah, like you're such a, I don't know what I said, but she shook my hand, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was great. She was awesome to see. I remember I really enjoy like Laura Jade's portrait work. It's like fashion portraits are really great too. I'm trying to think of a recent artist that I've come across lately. I went I think it was like 2 years ago, but to the Yayoi Kusama exhibition in Tokyo. And it was just so cool to see all her work, because it's just so, the polka dots, like it's really incredible how she just uses them to just create, like it's a very interesting feeling, like being surrounded by polka dots. But she has such a way with color and shape, and so that was really fun. That's like my top artist at the moment.
The documentary about her called Infinity?
I haven't seen the documentary yet. No.
It's really good.
Yeah. It's really she's fascinating. So yeah, I would definitely have to watch that documentary.
So do you have any like personal projects that you're working on right now?
It's funny because I feel like whenever someone asks me that question, they're like, you're always doing so much. And I'm like, I cannot stop. Personal project. So I am working on a personal photography project. It's actually a book project that I'm working on, but I don't want to get too much into that because I'm still developing it, but I am working on a photo book. It's probably like a few years out, like 1 to 2 years out though, but I'm excited to be doing that. And then
with an exclusive Lightmeter moment right now. Can you tell us one hint or tidbit about your book?
One hint or tidbit about the book. It will be in the vein of what we love about Anthony Bourdain. I'll say that.
Great. So are there any other projects that you're working on besides the book?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, I started my creative virtual assistant business. So that project is called Triva. I based that on an acronym. So it's basically to give small business owners back their time, resources, energy, and empathy as their virtual assistant. And so I'm really excited for this new business venture. I'm really excited about it because I feel like you want someone as passionate about your product or service as you are, so you can pretty much focus on the bigger picture. So I'm really excited to help others with like their details and optimizing like their social media and stuff. So I'm really excited about that project, and I think it'll tie in as well with my photography, especially nowadays that I'm shooting a lot of headshots and personal branding work. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Great. Well, thank you, Ian, for hanging out with me this afternoon for a little bit.
Yeah, you can check out my photography at Iann Ivy Photo, or you can also check out my new creative virtual assistant business, and it's at Triva. So it's HITREEVA.
Really looking forward to seeing where you go next.
Thanks.
Okay, bye. Lightmeter is researched, hosted, and produced by me, Robert Schultze. It's also co-produced by Lauren Baines and recorded in San Jose, California. Did you enjoy this podcast? Let me know your thoughts and send an email to lightmeterpodcast@gmail.com. You can listen to us on anchor.com/lightmeter, and I'm on Facebook at Lightmeter Podcast, Twitter at LightmeterPC, YouTube at Lightmeter. I know, sorry, there's a lot of variation on the name, but if you search for Lightmeter and see our podcast logo, that's the one. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you next time.